This is a problem, and so is this. And guess what? These are problems I kinda wanna change, but they aren't in my top 5. There are 5 really big problems in Dragon Ball Super, and if they were to change, I think not only would Dragon Ball Super benefit, but the entire Dragon Ball franchise would have a brighter future in my opinion. And the first issue to illustrate what I'm talking about is in Super Saiyan Blue. Super Saiyan Blue is one of those forms that should have felt monumental, but the way Dragon Ball Super handled it, it lost its mystique way too fast. Now don't get me wrong, I do appreciate that not every Saiyan in the series just magically got the form. One of the things I like about Super is how it gives everyone different paths to strength. But Blue specifically, it was introduced too early and used way too often. I think the best way to fix this would be to delay its introduction. Imagine if Super Saiyan Blue debuted in the Goku Black arc, or even in the Universe 6 tournament. The only thing I'd add in that second case is that there will be a time skip for us to see how long it should really take for Goku and Vegeta to reach this level. I mean, either one would have made the form feel like a huge escalation that shocks both the characters and the audience. Anything would have been better than dropping it during Resurrection F, and that actually leads me right into my next fix, and that is to eliminate the Resurrection of F story entirely. To me, it's the weakest Dragon Ball movie of the modern era, and the anime arc somehow manages to drag it down even further. The biggest crime is how it introduced Super Saiyan Blue. The form was supposed to represent the divine power of a Saiyan who had God Ki and then went Super Saiyan on top of it. It was something so far above anything in Z that it should have felt like untouchable. But instead of a legendary debut, Blue gets introduced in a cool way, like the transformation sequence is nice, but then it loses twice in the same story. Goku gets taken out because he lets his guard down, and Vegeta, despite dominating Frieza, gets the earth blown up. Remember how OG Super Saiyan changed the playing field? Think about the first 3 Super Saiyan transformations. They dominated in those fights. Goku beat Frieza, Trunks literally destroyed Mecha Frieza, and Vegeta ripped 19's hands off and then blew him up. We didn't get anything like that with Super Saiyan Blue, and that's because of this Resurrection F story. But the problems with Resurrection F go deeper than just mishandling Blue. It actively derails the direction that Battle of Gods set up. Battle of Gods opened the Dragon Ball world in a way that hadn't been done since Raditz. We met Beerus, we met Whis, we got our first taste of God Ki, and we were teased about the existence of entire universes beyond the one we had been watching. And instead of building on that, Resurrection F doesn't stop, but it actually goes backwards to rehash a fight on Earth with a villain we had known for 25 years. Now, I'll never diss Frieza. Frieza is one of the greatest antagonists in anime history. But part of what made Frieza so great on Namek wasn't just his character, but because of how he impacted everything going on around him. At different points in time, he was a threat to the Z Fighters' lives, the Namekians, Vegeta, and even just the planet itself. And this was all without Frieza having to act. We just knew that he was that strong. In Resurrection F, none of that context exists. It's just Frieza's back and we gotta beat him. And without that build-up, he feels smaller than he actually is. This is why I think the story should have skipped Resurrection F entirely and jumped straight to the Universe 6 tournament. That arc actually did what Battle of Gods leaned towards. It expanded the world, introduced new fighters, and gave us a glimpse of the multiverse. But for it to really land, I think there would have needed to be a time skip. Maybe, 2 or 3 years, just enough time for Goten and Trunks to grow up more and for Goku and Vegeta to believably achieve Super Saiyan Blue. And it also isn't too believable for Goku to master Ultra Instinct in less than 48 minutes. We're talking about a technique that was built up for over 100 episodes, a state of being that even gods struggle with, and yet Goku fully unlocks it in a single 48-minute tournament. And the odd part of it all is that it pays off really well. This moment here is one of the best in the Dragon Ball franchise to me, but I do think it's a negative in the long run. The fix to me is simple. Don't let him master it in the Tournament of Power. Let him access the Omen form multiple times, show glimpses of what's possible, make that the hook for the next stage of Goku's journey. But the mastery of Ultra Instinct should have happened later, and the perfect place for that was during the Moro arc. Imagine the weight of that fight if Goku, after losing Beerus, someone who literally sacrificed himself to give Goku a chance, finally achieved Ultra Instinct in its full capacity. It would have felt a little more earned. The next change I'd make is to rebuild the side characters and actually make us wait for Goku to show up. That used to be a staple in both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. In the Saiyan saga, we had Piccolo training Gohan, Yamcha and Tien putting their lives on the line, and even Chaozu making his sacrifice. On Namek, Vegeta, Krillin, and Gohan carried the better part of the story before Goku even touched down. That approach built tension and gave the supporting cast purpose. And when Goku finally arrived, it was a satisfaction that's hard to explain. But what's even harder to explain is how that well-proven formula is forgotten about in Super. Far too often, Goku is right in the middle of things from the start. There's little suspense in wondering how the main character will appear and how the story will shift when he does. The Tournament of Power is one of the 2 arcs that really play with this idea. We watched Goku gradually try to master Ultra Instinct while everyone else had to keep fighting, and that's part of why Ultra Instinct's reveal worked, because it felt like the culmination of everyone else buying time for him. But the best example of this done right is the Mora arc. And to me, it's a big reason why so many fans, including myself, consider it to be the best story in Dragon Ball Super. Goku wasn't in every fight. Gohan, Piccolo, 17 and 18, even Jaco all stepped into the spotlight. They fought and they struggled, which made Goku's inevitable return feel that much more impactful. They even did it with Vegeta too. That trope is something Super should have leaned on way more often, and having supporting characters play such a big role allowed something else to happen a lot in Dragon Ball Z. Because for this last change, I really had to think. Dragon Ball Super's characters are far too strong for the lacking weight that the stakes always have. Because factually, the stakes in Dragon Ball Super were much higher than they ever were in Z. Zamasu almost took over the universe across timelines. The Tournament of Power could have resulted in the destruction of Universe 7, but it only felt like the Z fighters would lose on one occasion, and that was tomorrow.
Again with the
Goku
Moro
had
arc.
mastered Ultra Instinct and beat Moro until he decided to become one with the Earth. And if it weren't for Oob, the Z fighters would have lost. There's no way around it. But there was almost always great tension in Dragon Ball Z, and then it clicked for me. In Dragon Ball Z, I knew the Dragon Balls existed, and I knew that eventually the characters would get stronger. But even with those safety nets, the tension was real. Fights had consequences, and death was always a possibility. This is the biggest change I would make in Dragon Ball Super. Goku, Vegeta, Beerus, and maybe even some other characters should have all died at some point in the story. Toriyama wasn't afraid to kill his main characters back then. Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, Vegeta, even Gohan in 2 different timelines, they all died at different points, and it really did shape the story. They were the foundation for almost any emotional moment the series is known for. I don't know why Super wouldn't carry that same strategy forward. Imagine if at some point Goku, Vegeta, or even Beerus had died. Imagine Gohan being forced into stepping up against a Zamasu, or Goten and Trunks having a fight in the Tournament of Power because Vegeta was dead, or how the universe would be thrown into chaos without Beerus present. There were just a lot of missed opportunities by not allowing death to even be an option. Like when Vegeta did this against Toppo, it was already leaning solely on nostalgia. But for him to not even die, and not just that, but to continue fighting, it's those kind of decisions that make you scratch your head and wonder just how did this franchise lose its way like that? But those are just my changes, and I would love to hear yours. What changes would you make to Dragon Ball Super and why? I want to thank you for getting to the end of the video. If this is your first time here, hit that like button and subscribe for more videos like this. With that being said, this is Matt, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.